that me bringing up the move won't jack up the night. If I up and say the wrong thing, it might start a war.
Amy Slaton Halterman's life has always been a storm of emotion, transformation, and public attention. Yet the latest reports out of Crockett County, Tennessee, have left fans stunned and heartbroken. The once beloved reality TV star celebrated for her redemption and motherhood is back in the spotlight. Not for inspiration, but for a scandal that could change everything. According to official reports, Amy Slaton Halterman and her companion, Brian Lavorne, were arrested after deputies responded to a strange call about a camel biting incident at a local park. What began as an odd emergency quickly turned serious. Inside the vehicle where children were present, officers allegedly found marijuana and illegal mushrooms. Both Amy and Brian were taken into custody, charged with possession of controlled substances and endangering minors. They were later sentenced to nearly a year in jail, ordered to pay over $1,000 in fines, and required to complete a state-certified parenting course and a drug-down-the-hall assessment. For longtime viewers of 1000 Delby Sisters, the news felt like a gut punch. Amy was the heart of the Shotha, gentle, soft-spoken sister who conquered poverty, obesity, heartbreak, and the relentless glare of fame to become a loving mother. Tammy was the fighter, the dramatic one. Amy symbolized hope. Now that image has cracked wide open. Social media ignited instantly. Rumors, screenshots, and anonymous claims spread like wildfire. Fans were divided, some angry, some heartbroken, some in disbelief. How could the woman who fought so hard to rebuild her life fall so far? Many blamed the pressures of fame and emotional exhaustion. Others believed there had to be more behind the headlines. Soon, reports emerged suggesting that police had been monitoring Amy for weeks before the arrest. Anonymous tips and suspicious activity around her home allegedly caught their attention. Neighbors reported late-night visitors, shouting matches, and mysterious deliveries. At first, fans dismissed it as gossip, but when law enforcement acted, everything changed. Officers reportedly found more than just a personal stash. Hidden compartments, packaging materials, and digital traces hinted at something bigger. Amy's phone was seized, and investigators allegedly uncovered messages suggesting possible distribution, not simple possession. If proven true, that could mean felony charges much more serious than what's been publicly disclosed. The revelations hit even harder when fans remembered Amy's past. Before fame, she'd already had run-ins with the law. Insiders recalled a previous drug-related case where she served around 3 months in jail and paid roughly $30,000 in fines. For years, people believed she had left that life behind. On television, she was portrayed as someone who had overcome hardship and transformed herself for her children. That's why this new incident feels like such a betrayal. Fans who defended her, who saw her as proof that people can change, are now questioning whether they ever truly knew the real Amy. Close acquaintances claim the downward spiral began slowly after her separation from Michael Halterman, the father of her 2 sons. The breakup, custody issues, and constant media scrutiny reportedly pushed her into emotional isolation. She withdrew from family gatherings, her moods shifted unpredictably, and she seemed overwhelmed by the weight of it all. What the public viewed as stability may have been unraveling behind closed doors. In the weeks leading up to her arrest, police allegedly received several credible tips and organized a pre-planned raid. Early one morning, they arrived at her home, catching her by surprise. Witnesses described multiple patrol cars parked outside, officers collecting evidence, and items being sealed into labeled bags. Neighbors watched in disbelief as investigators carried out boxes and electronic devices. Sources later claimed the evidence shocked even authorities. Small containers of powder and pills hidden among toys and household items, some labeled, others not. Digital records reportedly linked to financial data and online messages pointing to potential transactions. While not all of these claims have been confirmed, the seriousness of the investigation suggests officials believe there's more at stake than a misdemeanor charge. If Amy's earlier conviction is verified, the court could treat this as a repeat offense, leading to much harsher penalties. A second charge involving intent to distribute could result in multiple years behind bars. heavy fines, and long probation periods. Beyond that lies the greatest emotional bluff of possibility of losing custody of her children. For Amy, that's unthinkable. Her boys have always been her motivation, the reason she changed her life in the first place. To risk that now feels like watching her entire story collapse in slow motion. Online, the public remains fiercely divided. Some say this proves she was never as changed as she claimed. Others urge compassion, emphasizing that addiction is an illness, not a choice. Many argue that the relentless stress of reality TV fame, constant judgment, online hate, and the pressure to stay relevant can break even the strongest people. Meanwhile, TLC faces a major dilemma. The network built its brand on the Slaton sisters' personal struggles. But this scandal crosses into territory few shows can handle gracefully. If the charges stick, producers may have to suspend Amy's participation, re-edit upcoming episodes, or even cut her from the show entirely. Most contracts contain morality clauses, allowing networks to terminate relationships when stars engage in illegal behavior. Losing Amy would hit 1,000 Delby sisters hard. She's not just a cast member, she's the emotional core. Without her, the series risks losing the balance that made it work. The contrast between Tammy's fiery personality and Amy's tender resilience. Behind the scenes, insiders reportedly describe deep tension. Some producers feel the show cannot survive without Amy. Others fear keeping her involved could tarnish the brand. There's speculation that production may shift focus toward Tammy, who, ironically, may now appear as the more stable sister. That reversal of roles adds another layer of heartbreak to an already tragic situation. Fan forums and comment sections reflect the chaos. "I can't believe she'd throw it all away," one user wrote. Another said, "If it's true, I just hope she gets help." Supporters share old clips of Amy laughing with her kids, crying in confessionals, remembering how genuine she once seemed. For many, it's impossible to separate the woman they watched grow on television from the one facing charges now. As of now, full details remain under wraps. Police haven't released the complete evidence list, and Amy's legal team has issued no formal statement. That vacuum of information only fuels speculation. Whether she's guilty, misunderstood, or a mix of both, the damage to her public image is already immense. Fame, after all, magnifies everything, the triumphs and the tragedies. Every misstep becomes a headline. For Amy, who has shared her life so openly, there's nowhere to hide. Every rumor spreads, every photo circulates, every mistake is dissected by millions of strangers. Even if she beats the legal case, rebuilding public trust will be another uphill climb. Redemption in reality television is rare. Yet if anyone knows what it means to start over, it's Amy Slaton. She's done it before, losing weight, finding strength, and becoming a mother against all odds. Whether she can summon that resilience again remains to be seen. Inside sources say Amy has gone quiet. She's reportedly focusing on her children and staying away from social media. Those closest to her describe her as scared and emotionally exhausted. Whatever her mistakes, her main concern now is protecting her sons and keeping her family together. Meanwhile, TLC executives must decide what comes next. Will they stand by her and frame this as a redemption arc, or distance themselves entirely? Some fans predict the show will pause production until her legal matters are resolved. Others expect a spin-off focused on Tammy's continuing transformation. Whatever direction the network chooses, the outcome will redefine not only the show but Amy's legacy. Across social media, the debate rages on. Some call for accountability, others for forgiveness. There are those who refuse to abandon her, remembering the woman who once inspired them to fight their own battles. And then there are those who feel too disappointed to keep watching. No one knows how the story will end. Maybe the evidence will reveal something unexpected. Maybe this will become another painful reminder of how fame can destroy the very people it once saved. But one thing is certain, Amy Slaton Halterman's journey has changed forever. The cameras may not be rolling, but the world is still watching, waiting to see whether she'll fall deeper or find the strength to rise once again. As the dust settles over Crockett County and fans refresh their feeds for updates, one haunting question echoes through every heart that ever believed in her story. How did it come to this? Her story. How did it come to this?
And not worried about relationships right now. Especially the people she's meeting online.
Behind closed doors, those closest to Amy Slaton Halterman are said to be more divided than ever. For years, her family stood by her through heartbreak, health struggles, and the harsh glare of reality TV. But now, the shocking allegations surrounding Amy have torn those fragile family bonds apart. Some relatives still defend her, insisting Amy needs help, not judgment. They describe a woman under immense emotional pressure, fragile, isolated, and exhausted from years of fighting both personal and public battles. But others have lost patience, saying she's been given too many chances and failed to protect what mattered most, her children and her future. Among those most shaken is her sister, Tammy Slaton. The same Tammy who once fought for every breath and nearly lost her life has since transformed physically, emotionally, and spiritually. After losing weight and finding peace, she's become a picture of resilience. Yet, as Tammy rebuilds her life, Amy's seems to be falling apart. Insiders say Tammy is heartbroken, torn between anger and sorrow, forced to watch her sister face the same darkness she herself escaped. It's a tragic role reversal no one saw coming. The sister, once seen as unstable, is now thriving, while the one who symbolized redemption stands accused and broken. As new details surface, one question looms large. Could Amy's alleged involvement in drug-related activity have been born out of financial desperation? Since her divorce from Michael Halterman, Amy's financial stability has been shaky. Raising two young boys, covering legal fees, and keeping up with rent and production demands have left her struggling. And though she's a familiar face on TLC's hit series, reality TV paychecks don't guarantee lasting security. Contracts change, storylines shift, and when the spotlight dims, so does the income. According to insiders, money troubles may have pushed Amy toward dangerous decisions. Some claim she was influenced by the wrong people, individuals who exploited her vulnerability. Others think despair and loneliness clouded her judgment, pulling her into risky territory she never imagined crossing. Whatever the truth, one fact remains. Amy's life was unraveling long before the police arrived at her door. But for her supporters, one fear eclipses all others: the possibility that Amy could lose custody of her sons. Authorities take cases like this extremely seriously, especially when young children are involved. If prosecutors can prove her environment was unsafe, Child Protective Services could intervene. Custody might transfer to Michael or another family member, possibly even Tammy or an aunt. For Amy, who built her entire public identity around being a loving mother, that prospect is devastating. Fans across social media are expressing heartbreak and disbelief. "Those boys don't deserve this," one wrote. "She's come so far, how could it fall apart again?" Others urge compassion, reminding everyone that Amy's life has never been easy, filled with trauma, mental health struggles, and the relentless scrutiny of fame. Still, the thought of her children caught in the middle has left fans divided and deeply emotional. Meanwhile, investigators are said to be piecing together an increasingly solid case. Despite the silence from law enforcement, sources claim that forensic teams are analyzing evidence from bank records and phone logs to messages and witness statements. If others were involved, more arrests could follow. But if Amy acted alone, prosecutors are likely to pursue the maximum penalty, citing her previous conviction as proof of repeated behavior. The stakes have never been higher. Everything Amy once fought for, her independence, reputation, stability, and motherhood, now hangs by a thread. Even if she seeks treatment or publicly apologizes, judges often view second offenses as a pattern, not a lapse in judgment. In these cases, pleas for rehabilitation often fall on deaf ears. Online, public reaction has reached a fever pitch. Facebook groups, Reddit threads, and TikTok videos are flooded with speculation, theories, and debates. Some express sorrow for Amy's apparent relapse. Others demand accountability. Many argue that TLC should permanently cut ties, claiming her behavior tarnishes the show's image. A smaller but passionate group urges empathy, saying her pain and trauma have fueled a cycle of self-destruction she can't seem to escape. Once Amy was the emotional heart of 1,000 Delby sisters, the one fans rooted for. The mother who embodied hope and second chances. Now, that image is shattered. The tone surrounding her name has shifted from empathy to disbelief. "I defended her for years," one fan wrote. "Now I don't even recognize her anymore." It's not just the scandal that hurts, it's the sense of betrayal from someone who once represented resilience. According to multiple reports, the investigation that led to Amy's arrest was months in the making. Authorities allegedly monitored her home quietly, collecting tips and complaints from neighbors who noticed strange activity, late-night visitors, loud arguments, and unusual deliveries. Slowly, those reports began forming a pattern investigators couldn't ignore. When the raid finally took place, it was reportedly swift and precise. Officers executed a search warrant in the early hours, cataloging everything found inside containers, baggies, and items believed to be related to drug storage or packaging. Some were discovered tucked away beneath furniture or inside personal belongings, suggesting intent rather than accident. Forensic testing later confirmed the presence of controlled substances, escalating the case from a misdemeanor to a felony-level offense. But what truly transformed this from a personal crisis into a full-scale legal emergency were two key discoveries: the packaging materials and the data retrieved from Amy's phone. Authorities claim those findings indicate intent to distribute, not simple possession. For prosecutors, that single detail changes everything. Once intent is proven, the penalties increase dramatically, shifting from months to potentially years behind bars. Investigators reportedly found digital messages and transaction records that strengthen their case. If those claims hold in court, Amy could be facing the most serious legal challenge of her life. For the Slaton family, the emotional toll has been immense. Some relatives are pleading for mercy, urging compassion and treatment. Others are furious, afraid that Amy's decisions will destroy everything the family has built: their show, their reputation, and the fragile sense of stability they've worked so hard to maintain. Privately, sources say tensions are high, with relatives barely speaking as emotions boil over. Even TLC now faces a dilemma. The network thrives on authenticity, but scandals of this magnitude can jeopardize an entire franchise. Should they suspend filming? Quietly phase Amy out? Or stand by her in the name of compassion? Every option risks backlash from fans, advertisers, or the public. But beneath the media noise and speculation lies a deeper tragedy: the collapse of a redemption story. Amy's journey was never just about weight loss. It was about healing, motherhood, and the strength to start over. She had become proof that no matter how far someone falls, it's possible to rise again. And that's what makes this moment so heartbreaking, to see that same hope unravel in real time. Still, amid the chaos, some refuse to give up on her. They believe Amy can turn things around again. Not for fame or reputation, but for herself and her boys. The woman who once overcame ridicule, depression, and self-doubt still exists somewhere beneath the headlines. Whether she can reclaim that strength depends entirely on the choices she makes now. As the legal battle looms, questions mount. Will Amy plead guilty and hope for leniency? Will she fight the charges and risk a harsher fate? And how will TLC, once her greatest platform, respond when the cameras turn back on? No one knows for sure. But one thing is clear: the shockwaves are far from over. What began as whispers of relapse has exploded into a public scandal, one that threatens to rewrite Amy Slaton Halterman's story forever. The investigation continues quietly, piece by piece, every phone record, every transaction, every lab result, painting a darker picture. Now, as the world watches, Amy's future stands on a knife's edge. The freedom she fought so hard to reclaim, the motherhood she cherished, the redemption she once embodied, all could vanish in a single verdict. And this time, the cameras don't need to be rolling. Because for Amy, the story isn't reality TV anymore. It's real life, and her hardest chapter has only just begun.
Is a accomplishment.
Gary, it's a little windy up here. Come on. Here.
The aftermath of Amy Slaton Halterman's arrest has sent shockwaves far beyond the quiet streets of her small Kentucky town. What began as whispers of relapse has now erupted into a full-scale legal storm, one that could redefine not only her career, but the rest of her life. The cameras may have stopped rolling, but the spotlight on Amy has never been harsher. And this time, it's not about reality TV, it's about reality itself. Insiders close to the case say the difference between Amy walking free or spending years behind bars could hinge on one critical word: intent. Prosecutors aren't just focused on what was found, but why it was there. If they can prove she intended to sell or distribute the substances in question, the case transforms from a possession charge into a serious felony. That single legal distinction could mean the difference between rehab and prison. The district attorney's office is reportedly analyzing every piece of evidence: physical, digital, and testimonial. Every text message, phone log, and item seized from her home is being reviewed. Many fans don't realize that in most states, repeat drug offenses come with exponentially harsher penalties. A second arrest isn't treated as a mistake. It's seen as a pattern, a failure to reform. Prosecutors can leverage that history to argue for longer probation, higher bail, and even mandatory minimum sentences. And in Amy's case, the stakes are climbing fast. Her previous conviction, paired with reports of a $30,000 fine and a short jail term, could now weigh heavily against her. Legal experts suggest prosecutors may classify the new charges under possession with intent to distribute if the evidence crosses certain thresholds. If that happens, Amy could face multiple years in state prison, followed by supervised release, restricting her travel, income, and even time with her children. And plea deals. Those become much harder to secure the second time around. Judges are rarely forgiving when a defendant has already been given a chance at redemption. But the most crucial evidence may not be physical at all. It may live inside her digital footprint. Investigators reportedly seized her phone, computer, and storage devices during the raid, searching for anything that could prove intent: text messages, payment records, or coded conversations. Deleted data isn't safe either. Forensic teams can recover erased files, rebuild chat histories, and map communication patterns. Something as small as a repeated payment or timestamp could become a key piece of evidence. If any of this points toward drug transactions or coordination with others, the prosecution's argument will strengthen dramatically. Her defense team, meanwhile, may challenge the search warrant's scope or the handling of evidence. But such defenses are difficult to win when the warrant is lawfully approved and supported by surveillance or credible tips. One issue, however, overshadows everything else: the presence of Amy's children in the same home where the drugs were allegedly discovered. Family court specialists warn that even potential exposure to narcotics triggers intervention. That means Amy could soon be fighting two legal battles at once: one for her freedom and another for her parental rights. Social workers, attorneys, and judges may all converge in the same courthouse, each assessing the safety of her home and her capacity as a parent. The outcome could reshape her family's future as much as her own. Financially, the situation looks grim. Her previous $30,000 fine was already devastating. But if the new charges rise to the level of distribution felonies, those fines could double or more. And that's before potential asset forfeiture, a process allowing the government to seize property tied to criminal activity. If prosecutors can prove any of her possessions were linked to illegal profits, she could lose not only her money but also her vehicle, electronics, or savings. For someone already struggling to stay afloat since her divorce, that could push her to the edge of bankruptcy. Law enforcement may also widen its investigation to include possible accomplices. In cases involving alleged distribution, investigators often trace a network: suppliers, buyers, or middlemen. If Amy's phone or financial records reveal communication with others tied to the activity, those individuals could face questioning or charges of their own. Each new lead adds another layer to an already complex puzzle. And once the forensic testing is complete, Amy will face her first major court appearance, the arraignment. That's where the official charges are read, bail is set, and hearing dates are confirmed. If the judge denies bail citing her prior record, Amy could remain in custody until a plea or trial. Courts typically weigh 3 factors in such decisions: criminal history, danger to the public, and risk of reoffending. With a second drug-related arrest now on record, leniency is far from guaranteed. From there, her legal team faces an uphill climb. Once prosecutors frame a case as intent to distribute, public sympathy fades fast. Addiction-related possession cases can inspire compassion. Distribution cases do not. They imply profit, exploitation, and intent to harm an image that can sway both judges and juries. Even if her defense argues that the substances were for personal use, her past conviction makes that narrative hard to sustain. The prosecution can easily present her as a repeat offender, a storyline that resonates powerfully in court. There's also the looming risk of federal intervention. If investigators uncover evidence of interstate communication money transfers, messages or deliveries crossing state lines, federal prosecutors could take over. Federal drug cases come with harsher guidelines, fewer plea opportunities, and higher conviction rates. For Amy, that would turn a state case into a potentially life-altering ordeal. Experts say this escalation depends on what's found in her digital and financial records. Even small traces of interstate involvement could be enough. Yet, amid the legal chaos, there's a human story, one about mental and emotional struggle. Courts often order psychological or substance abuse evaluations for repeat offenders. These assessments determine whether addiction treatment should accompany sentencing. If Amy is found to be battling dependency, the court may recommend rehabilitation. But rehab seldom replaces jail time. It's usually part of probation or post-release conditions. Repeat offenders often face both: incarceration followed by mandatory counseling and community supervision. Behind the scenes, Amy's family is reportedly torn apart. Some urge her to accept responsibility and seek treatment. Others, exhausted and angry, feel she's risking everything the family rebuilt. Tammy, who has fought to redeem her own image, is said to be heartbroken watching her sister's downfall unfold, feels like reliving her own darkest days. The emotional fallout extends beyond family. Online, fans are divided. Many who once cheered Amy's transformation now feel betrayed. Others beg for compassion, arguing that relapse is part of recovery. Comment sections, forums, and reaction videos have become battlegrounds between empathy and outrage. Meanwhile, TLC remains silent. The network, already criticized for handling of other reality scandals, faces a tough choice. Should it sever ties to protect its reputation or stand by Amy in solidarity? Both paths carry risk. Dropping her could alienate longtime fans. Supporting her could invite backlash and brand damage. For Amy, every moment feels uncertain. Each filing, each headline shapes her public image and her legal future. Her once inspirational story of resilience now teeters on a knife's edge between tragedy and redemption. She's faced public scrutiny before ridicule, judgment, and doubt. But this time, the consequences extend far beyond social media or television ratings. Her freedom, her family, and her dignity all hang in the balance. As her court date nears, one question echoes louder than ever. Can Amy Slaton Halterman find the strength to rise again? As her past finally caught up to her? Because in this story, the cameras don't need to roll for the drama to unfold. The real battle is happening behind closed doors in courtrooms, in counseling rooms, and in the quiet moments where a mother wonders if she'll ever get another chance to make things right. And whatever the verdict, one thing is clear. This chapter won't just determine Amy's fate. It will define her legacy.